Good evening. Welcome to the Spiritual But Not Religious Show. I'm your host, George Lewis. We're going to have a great time tonight. I've got a great guest lined up, a couple of call-ins tonight, and you can expect just to have a really good time. I've got a superb clairvoyant with us this evening. Before I get into tonight's show and our guest for tonight, I want to talk with you a little bit about the Spiritual Broadcasting Network. What we're doing about the Spiritual But Not Religious Show, what our motive is there. Basically, we live in a world that, there's so much polarization and so much difficulty happening really because of the two major religions are really kind of at war one with the other. And, I believe the majority of people in the world don't want any more war, but we get pulled into it. As far as the spiritual but not religious community, it's grown. It's huge now. People who have left the church, who still believe in some kind of a higher power, but who have left the church and don't have a community, so they no longer really have a voice. That community is right now 1 out of 5 Americans, according to U.S. statistics. That's 20% of our population and growing. So the purpose of both the Spiritual Broadcasting Network and this show is to bring you the many diverse voices of this new spiritual movement that's happening. I'm convinced that there's a spiritual transformation in progress. You might even call it a spiritual revolution. We've got to make some changes. Things have just gotten really towards the edge. So, and I'm quite sure that's happening now. It's a leaderless movement. We like diversity, we encourage diversity, and the world needs to get to a place where we embrace diversity. That's pretty much why the Spiritual Broadcasting Network and this show is happening. We're in the process now of setting up an expansion. We're going to have more shows. We've got some new software for running this in process now. So you can expect some really neat stuff here in the future. My guest tonight, let me tell you about next week's guest. Timothy Frecky wrote How Long Is Now? Listen, Timothy has written at least a dozen books or more. I started reading Tim's books back 20 years ago, and he's written just a great deal on Gnosticism, Gnostics, and mysticism. Guy is just super, super smart, really knows his stuff. He does a thing called now where he's a stand-up philosopher and really goes all over the world and talks with large audiences. So you're going to really enjoy Tim. He's a really, really cool guy. My guest tonight is Therese Benedict. Therese wrote a book, Days Go By But Not Love. She is a clairvoyant. Very, very interesting lady. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it tonight. Tom, have we got?
She's on the line now.
Good evening. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just great. I'm really pleased to finally get a chance to talk with you. We've been communicating through Tom, who does all of this, and you and I hadn't had a chance to talk, Therese. I'm really pleased you're on the air with us tonight.
Well, thank you. It's good to talk to you too, George.
Hey, are you in Albuquerque? Is that where you're at?
No, we do have a home in Albuquerque, but right now I'm in Tempe, Arizona.
Tempe, Arizona, right there by the college, right?
By ASU, yeah.
Yeah. I was there for a while, not long, but how's your summer been? Has it been as hot as it's been here in Florida?
Oh, my goodness. Yes, it's a lot of staying indoors.
What's kind of amazing, is that Texas has been burning, and we have had the hottest summers and the coldest winters, and Republican parties they're convinced we don't have global warming. Pretty amazing,
yeah.
Pretty amazing stuff. I know that for sure. Good grief. I was, doing some research. I see your publisher's getting some bad press. What's your experience been with them?
Oh.
Not good, huh?
I'm looking for a new one.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Well, but it's like I'll always be grateful to Tate Publishing, just for the fact that they did give me the opportunity of being a first-time author.
Yes.
Because it's so hard in the publishing world, and that it did give us, because my husband's an editor, and he's also my marketer, and he's also my manager. He pretty much does everything. And and that's how we got it to where the book is at its status right now, is for that reason, you know. But I'll always be grateful just because they were the ones who opened the door for me to get out there.
Absolutely. I totally hear and understand. And it makes swallowing a few bad things
Right.
much easier.
So sometimes you got to take the, you know, the downfalls to get your foot up through that open door. You know what I mean?
Probably more often than not, Therese. You know,
right. You know, you got to
yeah.
start. You got to start somewhere. You know, and you know, luckily, I did, you know, get that opportunity. I mean, it's a difficult one, you know, because they don't get a lot of information, but you know, because we did all the work and we did all the research, we really we took it to where we wanted to take it.
Right.
So it reached #1 bestseller. You know, my second book I'm trying to complete. You know, and looking for a literary agent and all of that. But you know, if it wasn't for tape publishing, I wouldn't be in the position that I am today.
Well, that was going to be my next question. You mentioned that this is the first of many, and you say you have one that you've written or you're in the process.
I'm writing the Days Go By Not Love is a series of books,
Uh-huh.
and it's going to be a 4-book series. So it's been so crazy lately that I've got just a couple more chapters to finish up, and then that one will be completed.
Right.
But we also did, in the time period of with the first book and the second book, or actually when the first book was getting edited at the publishers, my husband and I put together an inspirational journal that we put on hold until we found another publisher.
Right.
And I also did self-growth cards to go with the book to help the readers keep on track of what they're trying to accomplish.
Right. Well,
so we have those on hold. So we've been getting a lot of things done, and you know, and I love to write. I have so much going on in my head that, you know, that's a nice way to.
Well, it gives you clarity. It also brings out things you just really didn't, kind of mushing around in there, but you just don't really, until you see them on paper.
I mean, when you hold this kind of a gift and all this knowledge, you know, you want to share it, you know, and that's the whole purpose of my life, is to help people. And writing and getting it out there, you know, you can communicate. And I'm even writing my books like I'm having a conversation with that one person.
Uh-huh.
So they can relate. And they might not be relating to all of it, because some might not be what they're dealing with, but it still brings insight to help people understand if something's going on in their life, that, you know, they might be doing something to help cause it.
Absolutely.
And by reading those books, it would help them understand what their partake is in it, and then they can actually do something about it, which helps alleviate some of the situation.
Right. Well, in trying to find out a little bit about you, I see you were given a Congressman's Medal of Merit back in 1991. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
What was that? What was that for?
I was 29 at the time, and I had, you know, a hard childhood. So when I was in high school, and when I turned 18, I dropped out of high school, and then when I was 29, I went back to high school, and did not go get my GED. I wanted to fix my mistake where I left off with my mistake. So I went back, and in that time period, my sister was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, boy.
And I adopted her 2 kids, and I had 3 children ranging from 1 to 7 of my own.
You have 7 you have 7 of your own?
Well, no, my kids were ranging from the ages of 1
to 7.
and 1 to 7, and then my sister's children were 11 and 13.
Oh, wow.
So, and then I was getting my diploma and dealing with that and raising 5 kids. So that's why I was honored the medal.
That's pretty amazing. Those are some difficult times, aren't they?
Yeah, it was, but, I got something very precious. And, matter of fact, my sister and I did talk about it before she went on that trip that actually she was killed on. And when she came over the day before, she said, if anything ever happened to me, what would I do with my girls? And I told her I'd take care of them for her. And she said, you promised? And I said, I promised. And that was the last I've ever saw of her.
Wow. Sometimes the worst things that happen turn out to be, in some kind of way, better. They're good. They really can bring us and others a lot of good. So it's hard to say. I've had some things go wrong in my life that I thought were the worst things, and turned out they were maybe the best things.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, pretty amazing. So you're a clairvoyant. And
Yes, sir.
you got quite a gift from what I can see. And how old were you when you first recognized that you were clairvoyant?
I was young. I didn't realize that I was a clairvoyant at the time because I was so young.
Did that
But I had a lot of things happening to me when I was young, and I always knew that I was here to help people. I just didn't know in what way I was supposed to help them.
Right. So did that cause you some grief early on?
No, not at all. I was always at peace with myself, and I had a childhood that was harsh.
Yes.
And I just watched, and and I always knew between wrong and right, and it wasn't taught to me, by watching, because I'm the youngest of six, of watching the other kids get in trouble. I'm trying to honor my mother.
Huh.
And so I just always knew. I just always knew. And then, I would see things, I would hear things, and my mom is a Catholic, and we went to church a lot, and I would see things in church. And then, when I told her I heard somebody calling my name, she said, go to church. So that's when I knew I wasn't going to be able to talk to my mom of what I was seeing and what I was dealing with.
What was the church, the religion that you were brought up?
Catholic.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So you're somewhat of a recovering Catholic then.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say recovering. It's like I don't go to Catholic church.
Right. I understand.
I live every day of my life with God, for God. I have such a blessed life that it's been nothing but amazement. It has its hard period, and just because, people that have gifts does not mean that things don't come our way to make it difficult. And especially with my gifts,
Yeah.
they can come very hard because I know and I get guided through it all, but it doesn't mean it's still not hard.
No, as a matter of fact, I've talked with many psychics, clairvoyants, channelers, and oftentimes it's harder for for people that have those gifts than
It's harder on us because what we do, especially in cases where we help people,
right?
And it's like one-on-one. There's a lot of things you go through, but you go through it with them and you hold their hands so they can get through it.
Right.
And that's what it's about. You hold their hand and you help them understand. You let them make their mistakes. When things come down, you help them understand the mistake. And it's very emotional. It's very exhausting, but it's also mostly beautiful.
Yeah, and it's pretty rewarding, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Just to see the other person get to the end and have peace.
I'll tell you what I think I'd like to do now, if you're up for it, is to give your clairvoyance a little workout. I've got a couple we're in Sarasota, Bradenton area, and they're up in St. Petersburg, Florida. Bob and Sarah Bestor. They're recently married, I think, within the last 3-4 months here, and they have some questions for you. Would you be up for that?
Sure, I work out constantly.
That sounds great. Tom, we got Sarah and Bob on the line.
They should be right on the line.
Sarah?
Hi.
Hi there. How are
Hi.
you?
Hi, Therese. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, at this point, I'm just going to sit back here, relax, and watch the show. So, Sarah, if you and Bob have some questions, go right ahead.
Well, I have been particularly interested. Therese, with your background in with the angelic realm.
Wait, I'm going to have to jump in. We got a problem. You're going to have to mute your computer back there. You see, it's coming through.
Is that better?
Yes, it sure is. Now you're on.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not the most technical person.
Still on.
No, you still have it's still in the background, Sarah.
If I move away from it, is it better?
Well, yeah, but somehow or other, is Bob there to mute it?
No, he's not here. It's just me.
I gotcha. All right.
Okay.
Have her click that little speaker in the left hand.
There's a little speaker there in the left, in the left-hand corner. Just click on that, and that'll take care of it. Right underneath the video there. You
Did
see
that
it?
help?
Well, I think you got it. Good job.
I think I got it.
Good job.
This is actually the first time I've ever called in on a radio show.
Well, that's not a problem. You just
So.
go right ahead. You and Therese you're up.
Thank you. Therese, what I'm especially interested in talking to you about is I have been blessed in my life with an angel as a very active participant in my life for many years. She hasn't been quite as active recently. I think that may be because I haven't been asking her help as often.
Mhm.
We journal together. When we journal, she actually takes over and guides me, and my handwriting changes and even my vocabulary changes, and it's fascinating. And I don't have your knowledge and background, and I'm not sure how to best use this, or just enjoy it, or how do I get her back into my life a little bit more than she's been since I've been busy, as George mentioned, being newlywed and.
Right, and that could be the reason. You're newlywed.
Oh.
And I can understand with the writing, with the pencil and different styles, because that's how I wrote my first book, is by hand, and being guided and being told what to write, and it's like you should know that they're never not there when they're with you. When they're not being active with you, it means for you to take that time. You're honeymooners. So you enjoy your time, and then they'll come back, but they'll definitely let you know when they're back. So and then you can continue on. But when you're newlywed, you get breaks. I've gotten my breaks, and when it's quiet for me, it can get a little unnerving because I'm so much used to all that activity in my life. So it takes a little adjustment, and so don't be afraid, that they won't come back or they're not going to come back, because they will. They're just letting up a little bit, and then they'll start up again. I promise you.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that, because I've felt like it's even been more than one person. Celeste is the only one by name that I know, but we've been busy in our marriage, and Bob has written a book, and so we've been busy with that, and so I guess my attention has been elsewhere, and I probably haven't
So
sat
what they're
down
doing,
and asked
right.
the angels.
Right. No, what they're doing is honoring that, and when they're honoring that, you know that you're going in the right direction, and you're doing what you need to do. You need to support what you and your husband are doing together, and they're giving you that time. And when they don't write with you, they're telling you you still need that time.
Well, that really makes me feel good. thank you. That's because it's been something that I've really missed, and I've wondered. What
Yeah, you do ache for it. You do ache for it. I've done so many different things with them, and I was just telling my husband the other day, I miss so much of the activity that they used to do. You know, it was amazing, and it kind of quieted down while we're focusing on what we're doing, and you yearn for it, you miss it. It's a normalcy in your life with all of that going on, and it's different when a normal life comes into play because we're not used to that.
Well, you've made me feel better. Thank you so much. And,
you're welcome.
Good luck to you. I want to read your book, so I will order it before the show is over.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for answering my questions so thoroughly.
You're welcome. It was an easy one.
Well, it wasn't easy for me, so I'm glad it was easy for you. Thank you very much, Therese.
You're welcome.
Sarah, we were glad to have you on the line. You have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
So that was a nice call there. She's
yeah, it is. It's nice to come across people that have experienced things that I've experienced and dealt with, and that's a daily part of my life.
Yeah. Well, I think I've written a book myself, and I think and even before that, it was like automatic writing and channeling, and you an idea will come to you, a thought will come to you, and you speak it, and then you think, where did that come from? And that it's it's not just you. This
little
this is
assistance
coming from.
in your book writing.
Yeah. So you do a lot on the personal level. Do you intuit at all on more of a global level, like as far as what's going on in the country and the world?
I don't, but I can receive answers for you on that if you want. But it's like my basic focus is on helping people.
Right. So now we can go by if that's not your focus. I know some clairvoyants, some psychics they have their specialty, and that's kind of like probably the place we ought to stick.
Right.
Earlier in your book, you talked about that all of us have to deal with something.
Right.
Slamming doors, a desperate need to be right, or lots of things that cause us problems. What was your personal experience with that? What was your awakening that, hey, I've got a problem here, I need to deal with it, and how did you deal with it?
Geez. I guess my issue that I've ever really dealt with was because of the people that I had in my life. I lost self-confidence, even though I knew that who I am, that I was good, how loving that I am, and I knew that the words that were being said to me were untrue and they were stated out of anger. So I had to show myself that, I can do more, because I was in a situation in my first marriage that I wasn't allowed to work. It was a very abusive marriage, and I ended the marriage, and then I had to show myself, after being in a marriage for so many years, quite a few years, that I had children at the time, and that I was making a move to where I had to go out there and be out there in that world.
Right.
That I was not allowed to be in for about 12 years. So I had to overcome that. And to me, that was my biggest challenge, and I did. And anytime that I had a worry or a concern that, regarding being a single parent, I did something about the worry, because I knew that's what was going to get rid of the worry.
Right.
So I just kept my focus on that and on my children. And I tell my children all the time, they were my strength. They are the ones who pushed me to what I needed to do for me. And I showed myself that I could do anything. I mean, I was in radio for 4 years. and I was a promotion director for 2 years. I was a producer for 2 years. I was in the law, and I learned law. When I walked in the law, I didn't know anything about law. I ran the school, the office in the school. So, and I showed myself no matter what I did to do what I needed for my children,
Right.
I did it, and I learned it, and then I learned it well. So, and I really showed myself that I could do anything, and that one moment you're talking about is when I realized, the person that I need is me.
Right. So did
The
you
person who's
get did you get any therapy or anything like that?
No.
Or just kind of like walk through it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you
I just
go ahead.
go ahead.
What do you
I
think?
just I just knew when I was at a state in the beginning, I just told God that I'm putting it in your hands because I know I did well, and you will not let me, you won't stop me from taking care of my children.
So why do you think you chose to be in that marriage?
Because I was not shown love as a child.
Right.
I
It's pretty
was
interesting
not told.
how we hook up with somebody who will treat us just
Right.
like.
And when you don't hear it when you're a child, the first time I heard my mom say she loved me, I was in my 30s.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's.
And my dad wasn't in my life. When we moved to New Mexico from Chicago, I was 9 when we moved, and I saw him twice in 9 years. So it was. And my mom worked all the time because she had 6 kids. So it was not having parents around, not having any grandparents, not really seeing any uncles, not being around any cousins. That's why I was so used to being alone.
Right.
And, because I didn't have all that, my mom was doing what she needed to do for us, and my father actually cheated on my mother, and, understanding my mom of why she was the way she was because she was hurt, and since he wasn't around, we got the consequence.
Right.
So that's why, and I didn't, because I never heard it, and I heard it, somebody told me they loved me, and I knew they were the wrong person to marry.
Right.
And I did anyway.
Was it just trying to get out of the house, or?
No, I left the day I turned 18.
Right.
I was the only one.
Well, we look back on some of these decisions that we make, and we think, "Oh my goodness, why did I do that?" But I as time goes by, for me, much of why I made the decisions I made becomes more clear. And I see that what was happening was I was really being guided to a place where I would take a look at my own issues, guided to a place where I would learn how to deal with the my feelings and emotions and have power over them rather than them having power over me.
Exactly.
It's quite a journey, really.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't have regrets. I have beautiful children from it, and it taught me that you can be loved, and you don't have to make a brutal mistake to be loved.
Right.
And I should have known at that time what was valuable to me was loving me in the right manner and not selfishly and vindictively, and being who I was enough.
Was he physically abusive, or just?
He was very mentally and emotionally abusive. And
sometimes I think that's worse than the physical.
Right.
Because
bruises go away.
Yeah.
I always say bruises go away.
Yeah, but emotional wounds take a lot to deal
right.
with. Yeah.
But like I said, that's the whole purpose of this book, because when you really get to know who you are, those words don't hurt you.
Right. Well, it is about self-love, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We have to come to that place where
you got to take care of you.
Right.
You know, I tell my children that all the time. You need to take care of you.
There's a part in the book I want to talk about a little bit that you write about addiction, and I want to read a half a paragraph here, and I'd like to kind of hone in on this if we can.
Sure.
You say cruelty is one of the strongest addictions that can cause death to marriages, relationships, and can even drive a human being to inflict harm on themselves or others.
Right.
Cruelty goes hand in hand with anger and fuels this addiction without notice. We love to be
Mm-hmm.
angry because it influences us to punish others. When we punish others, we release the anger of another person's wrongdoing. There is
Right.
way too much of that in the world.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, because they've been hurt and can't address it to the person that hurt them. Say like their father or an ex-husband or something. They lash it out onto somebody else
right.
because they can't heal it from the person who gave it to them.
And I totally agree that anger is an addiction.
Yes.
And there
Right.
are a lot of
And then because when they release it and they belittle somebody or they abuse somebody, it feels good.
right.
But then it's going to come back because it's only for a certain amount of time, and whatever triggers them off, it's going to bring them back, and it's a constant cycle. And even the people that are doing this hate it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And the thing about it, I think, is that even though it's like children. Children really want us to discipline them because they're doing things they don't make them feel good, but they don't seem to be able to help themselves.
Right.
And I think that same thing goes on with do you work with a lot of people in addictions that have addictions?
I did with my husband.
What tell us about your husband, if you would.
When I met my husband, he was an alcoholic. He did drugs, and he did a lot of partying because of what happened to him when he was a child. And when he was 6, from the age 6 to 9, he was molested.
Uh-huh.
And he never told anybody. He hid it until pretty much the day I met him. And so he suppressed it with everything he could suppress.
Did he disclose that before marriage, or did that come out after?
That was no. I worked with him before the marriage.
Uh-huh.
And he was a great editor, and then he edited my book. And while he was editing it, I was teaching him at the same time. We were going through things. I had him face certain things. I had him get mad and vent out regarding the molestation, and help them overcome and heal from everything that he was carrying that was destroying his life.
Uh-huh.
And now he is ill to his stomach even thinking about his past, of how he was. But the beautiful thing about it is he knows the reason why, so he can forgive himself.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, rape victims, victims of molestation, oftentimes they want to blame themselves, for the act.
Right.
It's a tough thing, especially for, I think it's tough for men and women, but boy, men sure want to hide that fact. It's like
right. He was so afraid he was going to be rejected.
Oh, absolutely, and made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
Which is that happens a lot.
Right.
Well,
Right.
you make another statement, and by the way, I enjoyed your book, and
Thank you. Yeah,
very much. As a matter of fact, that folks can come to our website, and you can pick up a copy right there. We'll be selling it from our website for you. And it's a book for men and women, so don't let the
book for everybody.
yeah. And just because you're male doesn't mean if it says "Don't let love go by," it's still a good read for you.
Right, exactly.
You suggest also that life offers us pain and suffering, and here's the part I want to talk about. You say, because evil walks this planet. Tell me what that means, that phrase.
Cruelty. What people do to you.
Right. So, in other words,
it scars you. What I'm trying to help people understand that don't understand, because I'm not saying whatsoever that all people do not understand.
Right.
Is that actions and words scar. And even though somebody can say something so simple and then say, well, I didn't mean it.
Too late.
It's still scarred.
Right.
And no matter how little or big it is, it's going to take a little time period to heal up.
Right. And sometimes a long time period, and sometimes it really never heals.
Right. And then the person that's healing from it and the person that caused it needs to understand that and give them that time, but they can also help.
So what I'm
by their actions.
What I'm hearing,
with their love.
What I'm hearing you say then is evil is personified within us. Probably we all have the capacity for it, I would say. What do you think?
Right.
Yeah.
Anger, abuse.
We have that light side, where
murders.
You bet.
Infidelity.
And none of us, I think, are free from that dark side. I think the thing is we don't necessarily exercise it, but we all have it.
Right. I mean, that's the last thing I want to do. Yeah, that's a choice.
Right.
And that's the last thing I want to do is never hurt anybody. I don't like pain. I don't like hurt because it hurts.
Absolutely.
It's heart-wrenching misery, and you sit there suffering.
Right.
And that's why I love helping people, because I don't want them to sit there and suffer.
Right. So you coach a lot of people? Is that?
Right now, I'm not, because I'm focusing on the book. But anybody, I do sessions, but anytime that anybody is wanting help, I will stop. So, I just haven't really been out there to do it, but I can do it over the phone. I was just focusing on the book, and I had some situations, helping, some people out that I took that time. But there's any time that anybody wants to, get that pain out of their chest, doesn't matter how long ago it was, I'm more than happy to guide them all the way through until they're through.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a list of things here that you talk about in your book, and I'd like people to be able to hear these things and how you help them deal with it. So can we go through a few of those?
Sure.
The first one is you talk about, it says, let life be good to you. How does one go about doing that?
You do that for yourself.
Right.
You can help life be good to you, because what people don't understand, when you make the right choices, that even though it's hard, that good things do come to you instantly in some cases, and sometimes it might take a couple of days. Sometimes you might be dealing with something, and then all of a sudden there's a situation to help get rid of that situation that has been on your shoulders. But when you focus on doing the right thing, watching if you're, verbally abusing somebody, or you're cussing, and you're trying not to cuss anymore, or you're working on things that within you that needs to have worked on, and you're trying to understand, okay, well, if I say something like that, that's going to hurt somebody's feelings, and you hold your tongue.
Right.
Because people need to understand that you can say the truth without causing pain. Now, granted, sometimes the truth does cause pain, but it's not being done to cause pain. Does that make sense?
Oh, sure. There's a saying that, that the truth will set you free, but it's liable to make you pretty angry before that.
Yeah. Exactly. And then when they feel that anger, what they need to do is accept it.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So it's like, okay, yeah, I did that.
Here's the thing that I see is when someone's got a habit of that going on for years, what kind what kind of process do you give them to really start to let that go? I mean, is it just enough just to make them aware that they can make a decision and that?
Oh no, I cure it. I absolutely will cure it. There's a reason why.
Yeah.
There's a reason why somebody's doing what they're doing.
Right.
And until they face it, and until they deal with it, and until they heal from it, they're going to keep doing it.
Right.
Regardless how little, how small, how big, what the action is.
So someone who has an anger problem, who,
Right.
who actually knows they have an anger problem, and they try to stop, and yet at some point it just kind of like attacks them again, and they attack.
Well, usually what causes anger to attack again is for the fact that cruelty from the outside world. Because, like I said, other people's actions can make somebody so upset. I see it all the time. I see it with my husband. I see it with my family. They know that they're doing everything possible that they can to be the person that they are. And then somebody will come in and boom. And it's like, just remember who you are. Just remember, there's a reason why somebody's lashing out like that.
Uh-huh.
But you can't forget who you are. My husband is just totally amazing, completely different man. Will never, ever, or even have the desire or want or even inkling or even wanting to living the way he used to live. Completely, 100% solid, cured.
How long have you two been married?
We will be married 3 years in February.
Uh-huh. Very good.
Yeah, and when I started working with him, I pretty much nipped it in the bud in 6 months.
So in other words, when he became abusive, verbally abusive, and then you kind of set your foot down and said, "Hey, you can't treat me that way." Is that part?
That was my first husband,
Uh-huh.
and Jason, who's my husband now, has never been verbally abusive. It was his partying and his drinking
Uh-huh.
that I was helping him with, and he was so afraid when I first started working with him, and I sat down and I said, "Are you ready to start working?"
Right.
That's it. And he broke down in tears and said, "I'm afraid."
So did he go as far as to be into alcoholism, or was he
Nope.
just?
Yeah, he still drinks a beer now and then, and it's not falling off the wagon. He'll pour half of it down the sink.
Right.
The point is that he heals from what he was carrying, all that pain, all that anger, all the questions of why.
So he doesn't need to drink for the same
No.
reasons, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Most beautiful man in the world.
Well, that's
for
pretty
me.
fantastic that for that to happen for both of you, really.
Yeah. Yeah, who would have thought, because I was pretty much done with relationships at that time. I was, my
Right.
pillow was falling. But now I just, I have the knight in shining armor. I have the fairy tale dream, and I have wonderful kids. I have wonderful grandkids, and it's, and the people that are around me are just amazing, just heart-wrenching, tear-jerking, just incredible. My sister's amazing. My mother-in-law's made a complete, done a lot, and so proud of her. And my sister just, it takes a lot of strength. And I would see them fall, and I would see them accept it, and I would see them stand up, and I would see them continue on.
Well, when you say your mother-in-law, what kind of things were happening for her that were a problem?
Oh, I got the mockery, who I was.
Uh-huh.
There's an age difference between my husband and I, so I got that. And interventions to get me out of his life, And, and I just dealt with it. And I said, if it were true, I'd be running. I'd be running for the hills real fast. But what they're saying is not true.
How much?
So I have no reason to run.
How much of an age difference is there between you and your husband?
17 years.
Yeah, so that probably, frightened him, I suspect, huh?
It frightened me. It was my husband who carried me through that.
Right. Well, there are a lot of, May, September relationships that really do really well. Sometimes.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing to where I want to write a book about the perfect marriage. Because a perfect marriage is not just a marriage with no conflict, no disagreements, no fighting. It's how you handle them, and you use those situations to bond.
Right.
My marriage is amazing, and it's a beautiful journey in itself. And I have definitely been blessed in such an incredible way to where I know, God is proud of me. And matter of fact, when I met my husband, I was told where to stand.
You were told
and
what?
I was told where to stand. I was told to go to this event.
Wow.
And I told my sister, I said, well, I'm supposed to go to this event. She said, why? I said, I don't know. And so at the event, we went, and I said, I'm supposed to stand right here. And she said, why? I said, I don't know why. And that's when my husband walked up.
Wow.
I mean, he wasn't my husband at the time.
Right.
But, so it was, can I help you, ladies? And it's like, if you can, and it's history from there, and it was hard for me. I cried because of the age difference. It was very difficult, and it was Jason that really pulled me through it and reassured me that it was okay. And he even looked at himself in the mirror and says, I look completely different. I'm so much more mature.
Right.
He doesn't, he does, and never does anything saying, are you older or not? They don't even know. Which
Right.
I'm going to take that as a compliment, unless they're not,
Absolutely.
But it's just like, it's just amazing, George. It's like when you marry for the right reasons, no matter what the age difference is, I mean, I 50 years or so, I mean, that's age difference. That would be a little unnerving.
That would be a little unnerving for either sex, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but it's like, when you really go in it, and when we fell in love for the fact that I was falling in love with him, helping him, and he was falling in me because of where his life was turning.
Right.
And how he was healing inside. And then when you're in a situation like that, you can have a marriage that that's safe.
Right.
That you don't have to be afraid of it. That there's nothing out there in that outside world that's going to come in and tear you apart, because it's mentioned every single day. We show each other love every day with everything we do, and it's the most incredible life that a person can live.
There are, from my viewpoint, there are three things that really must be in a relationship, and that is, of course, love,
right,
respect, and trust.
Mm-hmm.
And without those three things, you really don't have much going for you.
Right.
And they,
right.
Without the trust and not just respect, by mouthing the words, but I mean real respect.
Really respecting them.
Absolutely.
Caring what you do to them.
Absolutely.
Caring what you say to them. Caring how you treat them. Everything. Everything.
So let's talk a little bit about. Tell us about your connection with your clairvoyance. You're pretty connected to the angelic realm.
Very.
Well, tell us.
never ending.
Tell us how that plays out. I mean, you get a sense, you hear a voice, you actually see. Are
It's
you visual?
constant. I see, feel, hear. I mean, you know how when somebody walks in the room and say, "You feel that energy?"
Yes.
I feel that constantly. If it ever dims down,
Uh huh.
I'm very uncomfortable because that's all I ever feel.
Right.
And some people feel it so strong for me that I actually have to move away from them.
The energy is just that powerful. Huh?
High, yeah, it's strong. It can be very strong.
Do you have just you have several angels? I guess is what you
Right.
and do you have, are they named? I mean, are they personalities that remain the same, or how does that work?
Oh, no, it's like there's certain ones, you know. I usually when I'm working with them, I talk to them all.
Right.
I talk to them all, and once in a while, you know, it'll be one-on-one, or you know, I'll talk to spirits. And my sister and I have a ball. We have more fun now than we ever had, and my brother who also passed away, and then you know, and God,
Right.
and that is the most striking, powerful, warm, the most loving feeling. Just amazing. Just amazing. I mean, I could not be blessed any more than I am.
So that kind of love energy just washes over you during those
Right.
times.
It's like ever since I was young again, I felt that I always had enough love to love the whole world, each individual person, and still have more love to give. It's just, it's never ending. There is no end to the love that I feel within myself, and it's great.
How do you deal with doubters, people who, you know, hear that you talk with angels and that you help people through, you know, with the help of these angels? How do you deal with people who really kind of resist that, or do you deal with them?
I honor them. You know, if they don't want to get to know me to see that there are, then I respect that.
Uh-huh.
And it's like that's their choice, you know. And sometimes when you have a skeptic involved that doesn't want to be around a person to see that it can exist, you know, it could be because they don't want to be wrong.
Right.
Or they're just afraid that there is, or they just rather keep to their opinion because they believe in their opinion, you know,
Well,
with
I
great
know,
strength.
I know for sure that, you know, I started in this metaphysical stuff back in 1974, 75, and back then it was dark, you know, it was not many people wanted to.
Oh yeah,
you
the
know,
mockery, you know,
huge.
con artists, and granted, you know, they do need to be careful out there because there are,
Well, there are,
and especially for psychics, you know,
Yeah.
they have a hard time, and I've seen, I don't go to psychics, but I would see some being a guest on certain TV shows or something that are truly gifted,
Right.
and those psychics pay the consequences because of the 1-800 call a psychic.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah,
But
it makes it harder on them.
But it's the same way in religion. I mean, there are a lot of priests
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of pastors and a lot, you know, and we hear about it all the time. So I guess wherever there are people, it's just going to be people, isn't it? And good and bad, it seems like.
Right, and that's why spirituality is so fun.
Right.
And actually, when people really, you know, get those beginning steps, it's hard. But that's why in the first book, that's only the beginning steps. That's why it's a 4-book series.
So
you know,
yeah.
it really can be fun when you start seeing it. and feeling it and seeing you put one thing somewhere and all of a sudden it's somewhere else. Or, something falls into place where it's like, oh, that was cool. It's really fun, and it's comforting, and it makes them stay strong. It makes it worth it for them. And that's why the activity, the visualizations, the warmth, if they're in a bad situation, all of a sudden, if they're in a bad relationship and they don't know how to get out, their boyfriend gets a job offer to go to another state, being gone.
Right.
Things like that happen, and it's just amazing. If they would just try, and it's your own personal relationship with them. It's like they become part of your family. They're my family.
Right.
It's like it's just they are like sister, brother, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
they're family, and it's such a joy. And then no matter what you go through, you don't have to go through it alone.
Well, that I think that's a huge part of this whole thing. What I'm hearing you say is that we begin to awaken and see that there's more going on than what we've had filtered out.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm convinced that there's so much going on that our brain really can't take it in, and so we filter a lot of this stuff out. And we see it, I think, with savants. That filter will break, and gosh, they can do things that are fantastic and amazing.
They're
Therese,
powerful. They can do anything.
Listen, Therese, Tom's been putting up your website, by the way, so folks out there will have that address to go to. We've only got a couple minutes left. Is there anything that we haven't talked about you'd really like to say to our audience?
No, we've hit on a lot of stuff. It's just,
Yeah.
They can email me. My email's on there. I don't know if my phone number is up or not. I don't know if my husband put that up or not. But, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself and show that you truly do have the power to take you places that you don't even know that you can go yet.
Absolutely.
And when you start doing that, you start realizing it, and you really feel good and confident, and learn to trust in you. And
right.
Because when you trust in you, you believe, where you're going. And when you're trying to go in the right direction, you can't go wrong, because there isn't any wrong in the right.
So if you do the next good thing as good as you can, you're going to finally walk into nothing but goodness, right?
Right. Just focus on, if you're not supposed to do that, don't do it. If you're in a relationship, don't flirt. If you can give phone numbers. If you're going to your mom's, don't disrespect her. She's your mother. Simple things start small.
Right.
When you get good at them, hit them more. But just make the effort and try to always make it a conscious mind.
Well, listen, Therese, you have been a good guest. I appreciate your taking an hour out with me this evening. And
it was fun, George.
Yeah, and I wish you the best. I hope you're able to help a whole lot of people, because there's a lot of us that need help out there.
Yes, indeed, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying.
And I'm sure we'll meet up somewhere again.
That would be absolutely wonderful.
Okay, you have a good
night.
night.
And tell Tom thank you. He was great.
He's a great guy, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he does a wonderful job here for us. So. All right, Teresa, you have a good night now.
You too.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye, George.
Well, that was a good talk with Therese Benedict. Days go by, but not love. Be sure and pick up a copy. And remember, I got Timothy Frecky next week. I tell you what, you are going to love this guy. He is spectacular. So be sure and tune in next week. In the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.